welcome in. It is day 307, and you're speaking with the Meeples Champion. And today, we're going to be going over a game that is, yet again, one I have not played in quite a long time. It's probably been somewhere around 10 years. This wasn't one of my favorite games. This is just unfortunately mashes up with a couple different modes of game that I'm not a fan of. That being said, it doesn't mean the game is bad, it's just not every game is for every player. The game is called Castle Panic. Now, the most important part to Castle Panic is that Castle Panic is a tower defense game. The concept is that you have 6 different lanes, and there are 3 different colors for these lanes. You have a blue, you have a red, you have a green. You also have 5 different sections. Monsters start in the outer rim, and that's the forest section. As they move in, you're going to have them moving into the archery section, then you're going to be moving on into the knights section, you have the soldier section, and then you get to the wall section. Now, the idea of the game is that you have your castle in the very center, and the monster's goal is to get down to the castle and destroy it. To do this, there are the 6 sections, each have a wall, and inside of those, each have a tower. Now, the walls only matter because they're blocking their way, so that they don't have to destroy the walls, but the towers are their goal. So a monster wants to get all the way down until the next move would have it hit a wall. When it does, it stays where it is, it loses 1 point of health, and the wall gets destroyed. The next turn, it'll move forward into the tower location. The tower gets destroyed, the monster loses another point of health, and now it's inside where the castle towers are. Once there, it'll start moving clockwise and trying to destroy all of the towers. If it successfully destroys all 6 towers, then they win the game. Meanwhile, you as the players, your goal is to destroy all the monsters. So there are a bunch of monsters. There's something in the range of maybe 60 monsters in this game. You're going to start with so many on the board, and then they're going to be continually coming out, replenishing, getting more and more monsters out there every turn. When the monsters enter the battlefield, you're going to be trying to wipe them out. Now, some monsters are weak. They have 1 point of damage, so that means you just hit them once, they're done. The others can be as strong as up to 3, and if that's the case, then you're going to have to keep hitting it to get rid of it. Now, the way the game works depends on number of players, but you'll have so many cards dealt to you. The game is primarily a co-op game. So you'll get so many cards, you'll have a starting player, and then at the start of your turn, they'll say, okay, well, if you're playing, for instance, a 2-player game, you get 6 cards. So at the start of your turn, you first make sure, do you have 6? If not, you draw up to 6 cards. Then you're allowed to discard a card and draw a new one. Then you're allowed to trade a card to another player, so you get to exchange. And then you get to start playing cards. Now, when you're playing cards, you can play all your cards if you're able, but only if you're able. So if a card says, use this card, it's going to go attack a red knight space, and there's no monster in the red knight space, you can't use the card, so it has to remain in your hand. So you're going to use the cards that you can, you're going to cause the damage that you can. Now, some of these cards are very clear. It is going to attack a blue archery space. You look at the top, there's potentially 2 different spots that this can hit, and there might be more than 1 monster in those spots. And if so, you pick which one to attack. Usually, unless otherwise specified, it just does 1 point of damage. However, there are other times where you might get a card that says, this is going to allow you to attack anything in the blue. So now you can attack the archery space, the knight space, the soldier space. You just can never attack the forest space. That is the safety zone of the monsters. Then you have other cards that are going to say, oh, well, you can attack anything in a knight ring. So this doesn't limit you to a color, but it does limit you to a lane. And then finally, you're going to have your rainbow attackers, and these guys tend to be a little bit more open. They're allowed to do a lot more damage. They can attack, anything going around. So you're going to have a lot of different types of cards for attacking, but then you have special cards as well. There might be a card that says, well, if you team this with another card, when that card causes its damage, this card makes the damage worth enough to destroy the monster. So you wouldn't want to waste this on a 1. You may use it if you're desperate on a 2, but you're probably holding out to use this on a 3. Take out the strongest monster with only 2 cards. You have other cards, like you have a brick and you have a mortar card. Now, individually, they do nothing, and they're just going to clog up your hand. But this is where trading is important, because if you and an opponent both end up, or you and a partner both end up getting 1 piece, you're going to want to trade to get those two pieces together. And the instant one of your walls has fallen, you can use the two together to rebuild the wall. So it's going to help to prevent monsters from easily just going back through that same spot. So there's a lot of different cards that do different things. But the primary setup of the game is that you are playing as a team in a co-op defense game. So that's the basic. But there are 3 different modes. One of them is a competitive mode. You're still working as a team, but you're going to be taking points based on the monsters you defeat, and they're going to be your trophies. And at the end of the game, you're going to end up getting points based on the monsters you beat, and based on those points, you'll see who the winner is of the winning team. A second mode is that somebody actually becomes the overlord. They are going to be in charge of the monsters. They're going to have special instructions on how they can put them out. They're going to have choice on that, and they're going to be trying to go on an all-out assault to defeat the defenders. So it'll be team versus one. And the final mode is that you're playing solo mode. Now, I tend to be a player who's not a big fan of 1, I'm not a big co-op fan. 2, I'm not a huge solo mode fan. I don't mind it occasionally, but it's not my primary. And 3, I don't really like tower defenses. So this game just didn't hit for me, but that doesn't mean I don't recognize that the game is very good. It is a great game for those who like those things. So I think that it's one that's going to be an interesting review today. So why don't we jump in? Let's talk our 7 categories and see where this one lands for us. When it comes to the art, now I chose to put up the first edition. There is a second edition with a different box, but when scanning online, I had played the first edition, so I chose that box cover. I think that the box cover's fine. I wanted to play this game initially because the box grabbed my eye. I was like, what's that? And I think that that's the primary use of a box. When it was set up, I thought it looked great as well. The card art looked great. The monster art looked great. The setup of the board was great. I played the game and soon realized I didn't like it, and I wasn't sure why. And it took me a while before I started to realize I wasn't a big co-op person. I wasn't a big tower defense person. But it was a game that definitely, from the look of it, fully brought me in. I still see it today, and I think I want to play the game. It's just not for me. But it is a good game, and I think the art does a great job of selling it. Thumbs up. Your components. So your components are, 1, your cards. You have a big deck of these cards, and they're really good quality. I'd say that it's unlikely you're ever going to see these wear. I don't think they're easily tearable. Doesn't mean they can't be torn, but these are definitely strong enough where it shouldn't be an easy tear. And then you also have your pieces for your castle and your pieces for your monsters. And they're all cardboard, and I think these are really well put together. I think that they didn't tear. I don't recall them tearing at all when popping them out. So there's no worry of getting that little bit of paper tear that causes the piece to look wrong. I think that they hold up well. It's definitely good by me. Thumbs up. Your price. Castle Panic's still widely available. Usually I've seen this in a Barnes & Noble. I think I've even seen it in a Target. Definitely 3 out of 5 board game stores, you're going to find it. It's going to be online. And you're looking at like a $40 price. Maybe it's $50, but it's out there. It's gotten a second edition. I think that for those of you who like a co-op, those of you who like a solitaire, those of you who like an all versus one, those of you who like to have a working together but there's a competitive point scorer who can take the win. There's a lot of ways to do that. But no matter which way it is, who like a tower defense, I would highly recommend this one. I think that it is the best tower defense I've played. Despite not being a tower defense fan, I recognize how good this is. So for me, I think that the price is worth it, and that if you're into that style, you should try it. Thumbs up. Your difficulty. So I think this is definitely one that beginners can enjoy and that experience can enjoy. Those 2 categories, without question. The question is kids and experts. I think that an expert can enjoy this game. This has enough to it that if you're into that style of a tower defense, you'll enjoy this game. I think a kid, this game probably on the surface looks playable. It's just about how well they work with a team. It may be one of those things where kids are frustrated because they don't know why they're not winning, and they don't realize, yes, you know enough to play a card, defeat a monster, do the basics, but you don't understand when to attack what and how to work as a group. And that's where, as kids, you might need a little bit more experience. But 3 out of 4 of these categories are, to me, really obviously good, so I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Replayability. This is one that's replayable. You can play this game a couple times in a row, and I think that if you like the game and a bunch of people play and then they leave and you want to play again, you can play solitaire. Or if you play and your friends are like, oh, I want to have a real winner, you can change it up and you can do it for getting the trophies. There's ways to get this game replayed in the same day, and it's a game I think can be pulled out multiple times in a month or in a year. So I'm going to say thumbs up. Keys to victory. So it looks like there's luck to this game, but I don't think there is. Yes, you flip over the monster, figure out where it goes. Yes, you pick up your cards. You don't know what card you're getting, but you can trade with each other. You have the ability to discard and get something new, and you have the ability to figure out how to target the floor. What are you after? If you recognize that there's a strong monster, you might be saying, well, you know what? Let me ignore the strong. I'm waiting to get a combo to get him out easy. Let's target the weaks. Or you might be saying, okay, I know they've got some great cleanup cards. They don't have some power cards on them. Let me make sure to be hitting a whole bunch of the bigger monsters to weaken them and let them do the cleanup. I think that there's options here. It's just about knowing the game well enough, and it might take a few plays to understand the intricacies of the cards. But I think that it's there. Thumbs up. Is the game unique? I think this game is a really good game, but at the end of the day, it's a tower defense. Now, I, at one point, reviewed the game Ginger Dead House. It was not one I was a big fan of. I kickstarted it. I traded it away at a board game swap meet. It just wasn't for me. I like this game a lot more than that. But the concept of the game, the concept of we have monsters coming down the lanes and you're trying to play cards to stop them, it was there. And I've seen a lot of other tower defense games. I think this might be one of the better ones of it. But at the end of the day, it's still a tower defense, and the core of the game you can find in a lot of other things. And I don't feel anything that's outside that core is strong enough to make it unique. It's got to be a thumbs down. Overall, what do I think? If you like a tower defense, this is the highest one I'll recommend. Of all the ones I've either played, watched played, or heard of, this is the one that to me has stood the test of time. Even though I'm not a huge fan, it's one I have considered to put in my collection. As I get older, I try different things, and it's one that I feel like maybe I should give it a second try. I have tried other tower defenses in the past few years, but I think going back to this one might be the one that it would end up being the one I'd like. I have to give it a second try and see where I think this one lands for me. That being said, if you're not into tower defense, I don't recommend it. There's definitely enough play modes with this that there's a way around it if you don't like a co-op, if you don't like a solo, if you don't want it to be competitive, if you don't want to do an all versus one. There's four different modes. You can find a way to play it. It's just about tower defense. Do you like it or do you not? Well, it has been day 307. We've been speaking about the game Castle Panic, and you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding in an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. And don't forget, jump onto Board Game Arena where you can find me under the name The Meeples Champion, and feel free to send me over a friend request or to ask me to play a game. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.